Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to see so many of you here. It means that you're at least thinking about going abroad next summer. And after the kind of year that we have had, that brings me so much hope to see that. So congratulations to all of you for maintaining your courage and your sense of adventure and your curiosity. The world really needs people like you. On the agenda today, I'm going to share some background about the Frederick Douglass Global Fellowship. Then we'll hear from our fabulous panel of alumni, Georgina, Haley, Kayla, and Julius. I'm so glad that you could join me today. And we'll end with some tips for the application, and then we'll open it up for questions. First, allow me to formally introduce myself. My name is Stacy Benjamin. I'm the Associate Director of Relations for Minority Serving Institutions at CIEE, as well as the Director of the Frederick Douglass Global Fellowship. My first time abroad was on a CIEE program, and that photo on the left is with my sisters who came to visit me in London that summer of 1991. And as you'll see from the photo on the right, when I say study abroad changed my life, I'm not kidding. I met my husband on that program, and the first 15 years of that marriage were fantastic. The last two, not so much, but I remain eternally grateful that I met him and that I went abroad. And I really feel blessed that my job is to facilitate these kinds of experiences for other people, knowing the value that it brought to my life. Let me also introduce you to CIEE. CIEE stands for the Council on International Educational Exchange. We were founded after World War II. The mission was, let's try to prevent another world war by bringing young people from different countries together. And we send folks overseas in all kinds of ways. We have semester and summer programs for college students like the ones I'm going to talk about next. We provide internships for international students who are coming to the US. We have high school programs with substantial scholarships. If you know any high school students who want to go abroad, check those out. We have a Teach Abroad program where you get paid to teach English in Thailand or Spain or China, amongst other places, and a lot of other programs, too many to mention. One of our priorities at CIEE is to make sure all these programs are accessible to as many students as possible. Because no surprise here, it tends to be folks from privileged backgrounds who go abroad. And given the many advantages of studying abroad, we need to change that. And that was one of the motivations behind the Frederick Douglass Fellowship. Sometimes students and advisors ask me, what makes CIEE unique? There's an alphabet soup of organizations out there who are doing exchanges. I've worked for some of those organizations, and I usually say three things. One is our history as one of the oldest student exchange organizations. Secondly, the breadth of our network as one of the largest exchange organizations. And thirdly, it's the people. My international education colleagues on the call will know that we lost a lot of people due to the pandemic, sadly, but there's a lot of extraordinary people who are still here. This is a picture of several of our site directors, and we are so lucky to have them. They are experienced, passionate, gifted teachers, wonderful with students, and all that is to say that when you are on a CIEE program, you are in good hands. On to the fellowship. So the Frederick Douglass Global Fellowship was founded 3 years ago, and the goal was to empower students who are typically underrepresented on study abroad programs with a curated experience abroad, one that would prepare them to be leaders in their communities in the long term, and in the short term to be ambassadors for study abroad on their campuses. It's inspired by the legacy of Frederick Douglass because he was transformed by the time that he spent abroad as well. He came back from his travels fired up and ready to change the world. And that's what we hope we can do for our Frederick Douglass Fellows. Luckily, somebody had a connection to the great-great-granddaughter of Frederick Douglass, Nettie Washington Douglass, so we could ask her permission. And Nettie Washington Douglass is the co-founder of the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative. They fight against modern-day slavery, also known as human trafficking. And she is an enthusiastic endorser of this opportunity. She attended the opening ceremony for the fellowship pictured there, and she's met with 2 of the classes. And I'm happy to share that she's keen to meet with the next class, which will hopefully include one of you. So we do a nationwide search for the best and the brightest, and those selected take part in a 1-month course over the summer that focuses on your intercultural communication and leadership skills. The fellows also go on a variety of excursions. They meet community leaders. They film mini documentaries about their experience, which are all on our website and are really wonderful, and a host of other things that our panel can speak to. We wanted to remove one of the main barriers to studying abroad, which is cost. So all the program fee is covered. That means your tuition, your housing, your insurance, the excursions, some of your meals, pre-departure advising, all of that is covered in your airfare too. All of that costs a lot of money, however, and while we wish we could do this for hundreds of students, we can't, not yet anyway. I'm waiting for Beyonce to discover us and give us lots of money, but that hasn't happened yet. So we can't choose everyone. But the good news is, if you meet the eligibility requirements and complete that application, you can receive a partial scholarship to go abroad. And the students who take advantage of that opportunity, we call our Frederick Douglass Summer Scholars. You can use that scholarship towards any CIEE program. Paris was the most popular destination last time, and I had the pleasure of visiting and taking that wonderful photo. And I'll share a bit more about some of your options later. Right now, though, I have the pleasure of introducing our wonderful panel. We will start with Georgina Aguilar. I hope I said that right. Georgina is an OG. She's part of the very first cohort of Frederick Douglass Global Fellows. And if you think about it, if that first class hadn't gone well, we wouldn't have done it again. So the pressure was on, and Georgina and her fellow students were really an extraordinary group who set the bar high where it has remained. She just earned her master's degree as well, so congratulations. And we look forward to learning more about her experience back in London in 2017. She'll be followed by Haley Smith, who was selected for our most recent class of fellows and went to London last summer. Haley is also interning with the marketing department at CIEE at the moment and doing some wonderful work. So check out our Instagram page, everyone. There's some wonderful content there. Thirdly, Kayla Miner is one of our Frederick Douglass Summer Scholars, and Kayla used her scholarship to go to Paris. I had the pleasure of meeting Kayla when I was in Paris and was so struck by her poise and her grace. I'm really excited to see Kayla again. And last, but certainly not least, we'll hear from Julius Brittman. And Julius is another Frederick Douglass Summer Scholar who used his scholarship to go to Merida, Mexico. Sadly, that program has been suspended, a casualty of the pandemic, but we have a program in Costa Rica with similar course offerings. And I wanted Julius to speak with us because he can certainly speak to the value of studying abroad. And he's presented with me before and was fantastic. So I wanted to hear from him again. And with that, I will pass the mic to Georgina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Stacy, for the introduction. So as Stacy shared, my name is Georgina. I am a former Frederick Douglass Global Fellowship from the cohort of 2017. I attended undergraduate at the University of California, Santa Barbara. So for anyone that's applying in California, feel free to reach out, or anyone nationally, feel free to reach out. I recently graduated from USC with a master's degree in post-secondary administration. Similar to Stacy, my first time going abroad was also through the CIEE program. I think, as we all know, it was a life-changing experience for not only ourselves, but the relationships we were able to build with our cohort. The trajectory of my career kind of changed from going abroad. I began exploring international education and kind of what that meant for me and what I wanted to do with students, especially from underrepresented communities like ourselves, and help them further these experiences. I think what made my experience unique with both my cohort was the ability to, as I shared, meet others and build those relationships nationwide. I am from California, so I previously did not know anyone from Texas, did not know anyone from New York. And so just being able to kind of have that network after the program and have that support system where if you find yourself in another state, you have a Frederick Douglass you can call. Along with that, I would say my most memorable experience would probably be the last night during our time abroad. I know it was previously in the previous slides in the picture. Kind of just reminiscing with all our fellows and understanding like how close we're able to get in such a short period of time. And the bond and the connection you're able to build with them is just amazing. I would say for everyone looking to apply, the biggest tip would definitely be to not be afraid to, one, submit that application. I know, as Stacey shared, we cannot fund everyone as much as we would love to. But the first step to kind of having that experience is submitting the application. With that being said, once you're abroad, I would say don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. There's going to be a lot of experiences and a lot of new things that you are going to have to navigate. And I think it's just all going to be part of building that relationship with your cohort mates, with administration, and being able to have that self-growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgina. Haley?
Of course. Greetings, everyone. I'm Haley E. Smith, a junior mass media arts major at Clark Atlanta University, and Frederick Douglass changed my life. It was just an experience that I was able to have that if I didn't, I would not be where I am today. And that's interning with CIEE, that's figuring out where I'm going to go to grad school because I'm about to graduate. It's all of those things. While abroad, I met 9 individuals in my fellowship that absolutely changed my trajectory of how I view the world. And I think that was my absolute favorite part, is listening to people who have never walked my shoes and I've never walked their shoes, and listening to their experiences and how they interact with the situation and the different perspectives. I think that was my absolute favorite part, to meet people who just are so different, but we're in this space and we're sharing things that are similar. One of my most memorable moments was actually our first day. We were in the classroom and we were supposed to have this whole probably curriculum, and the first thing we did was like a name game, and you talked about your name and what it meant to you. And we probably talked for 3 hours. Like, class was over and we were still sitting in the room talking about our names and what it meant to us, and you know, where we got our names and why it was important, the different types of names, and how sometimes we hide behind our names. And it was just extraordinary to be sitting in London at the time, 18 years old, and really here. So I would say to anyone who has a fear of applying, don't. I thought I missed the application deadline and I was like so upset, and it was November, and then I got an email saying it's not too late. That's literally what the email says, it's not too late. And I applied, and I forgot I applied, in one random day, and I don't answer unknown numbers. A random day, I got a number from a Boston area code, and I didn't really know anybody in Boston. I answered, and that was the call that changed my life. So I would definitely say, take a risk on yourself when you're abroad, when you're applying. Be yourself. One thing that's very unique about me is how I spell my name, the traditional Haley spelling. And so I made that a point in my video. And so when I got to London and I asked Dr. A, what made you guys pick me? She was saying, we couldn't forget your name. We couldn't forget it. And so I would just say, be who you are. Don't be afraid. They need unique people to create a unique experience. So that's my advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Haley. Kayla.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kayla Miner. I'm a senior at the University of Illinois at Chicago, and I'm a rehabilitation science major. So I would say to anyone who is like looking to study abroad and is nervous to just, do it, like everyone who was going before me stated, it is scary, it is nerve-wracking. I know the first time when I was talking with my parents, they said no. They were like, no, you can't go, like, because they were scared. We didn't really know a lot of people who have traveled abroad, and it was awful, but I was able to, talk with them, and the people from the program, they were super supportive and giving us, like, answering any questions we had, and then they allowed me to go, and it was truly a life-changing experience. It was the best summer of my life. If I could do it all over again, I definitely would. Like, you get really, really close with your cohort mates. Like, even some of the people that I talked to there, I still consider to be really good friends. And we went over a year ago. you like I said, you get really close and you're able to like immerse yourself and like the culture that you're at. We're able, like, one aspect of French culture is to have like meals, and to not, like, the meals are just like long and you're talking, it's not so rush and I remember we would just have like dinners and lunches and we would just talk for hours. And you in the US, like, that's not super common. After a while they're like, okay, like, here's your check, here's your bill. But when I was in France, I just remember just having time to have really genuine, deep conversations with people, like I said, for hours, and we just met, like a week or two ago. So that's just one example of how close you are able to get with the people that are a part of your cohort. And one piece of advice that I would give to people while they are abroad is to take any advantage that they can to travel while they're there, whether that's locally or even traveling to a different country. One thing that I love about Europe is like how connected every country is. So I was able to take train rides from France to Brussels and from Brussels to Amsterdam. And it was just truly a life-changing experience. And it was, no, I couldn't even imagine making those trips from the US to Amsterdam or the US to Brussels. But since I was over there, it was so much cheaper and it was just truly a rewarding experience. So just trying to take, I would advise anyone to try to take any advantage of any opportunities they can travel, in the country that they're at, or to travel to different countries while they're abroad.
Thank you so much, Kayla. And Julius.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julius Brittman. I am an alum of Fayetteville State University. I graduated with an intelligence studies degree and a minor in Chinese, and I'm currently a law student at the University of North Carolina. When it comes to, I guess, why I chose to study abroad, I was reading through a few emails, and one of the things that stood out to me was the but the lack of individuals from HBCUs that actually studied abroad. And so, I've always wanted to leave and do something different. And I've traveled all throughout the Eastern Seaboard, and I wanted to go somewhere new. And I chose Merida for an interesting reason, mainly because it was close to the border. And I was a little scared to leave the country at first. And, being that it's connected to, America, the United States, I felt that, I could still find my way home, even if that meant walking. But when it came to just being there, I never felt more alive. If I could, even though it feels like an hyperbole, it's just that the air was different, the food was different, the people were different, and everything just felt so very vibrant. And to be completely honest, on the last day, I didn't want to leave. It just felt, very surreal coming back. And my mom was a little mad at me. She was like, Julius, why don't you want to come back? And I had a great time. And I guess piggybacking off of what the others said, when it comes to the cohort and the bonds you build, you never meet, I guess, a more amazing group of people. My cohort was very small. There was 3 other individuals. And so we got a very intimate relationship. We would travel together, we would eat together, and we would practically do everything together. And these people I still talk to this day. I'll send them messages every other day and we'll send memes and laugh. And I don't know, I can't express how much joy I took from leaving the country and immersing myself in another culture. And I guess when it comes to tips, my biggest regret while I was there was that I didn't travel enough. I spent a lot of time, debating about what I should do. And so before you guys, leave the United States, I think you should do some planning and look to see what is around and, what countries are on the neighboring border. And so because Merida is on Merida is within the state of the Yucatan, and it's right on the border of Guatemala. And so I had the opportunity to go, but I just got caught up in so many different things and so many different options. And that is my biggest regret. Thank you.
Thank you, Julius. The world is still there, so your travels can continue. Thank you all so much. I feel so much better about the future, knowing that it is in your hands. So thank you for joining me. Before we go to the Q&A, I just want to share where the fellows will be going this summer and some tips for the application, and then we'll go to your questions. Now, in the past, the fellows went to Cape Town and London, but this year something very exciting happened. The Department of Foreign Affairs in Ireland, whom we have a relationship with because of our programs for international students who come to the US, they contacted us and they wanted to celebrate the 175th anniversary of Frederick Douglass's tour of Ireland by sending the fellows there. It's also likely they wanted to promote Ireland as a welcoming destination at a time when many countries like ourselves are going through this racial reckoning. As you can see on the slide, they also had protests after George Floyd's murder. The photo on the right is actually in Edinburgh, by the way, but I just really like the photo, so I wanted to include it. And I think it shows how much the Irish and the Scots really revere and respect Frederick Douglass. So after a few meetings, our partnership was forged, and that will lead to some great opportunities for the fellows this year. For example, the ambassador and the prime minister have expressed an interest in meeting with the fellows. Not confirmed yet, but it's looking distinctly possible. And at the very least, the fellows will meet some senior ranking government officials. And since Frederick Douglass was a diplomat, in addition to everything else, it's really wonderful that the fellows will meet these leaders as well. And in case you're not familiar with what happened 175 years ago, Frederick Douglass's first trip abroad was to Ireland. Well, his first trip was technically to Liverpool, but he was just there for a couple of days. And then he went to Dublin and he traveled around the country on the lecture circuit, campaigning against slavery and raising money and selling his book. And he became a bit of a celebrity. And he was so surprised by how friendly everybody was and the lack of racial prejudice, at least compared to where he'd come from. And he said that for the first time, I am not seen as chattel, but as a man. And I hear versions of that sentiment from students of color today who have gone abroad. I mean, to the advisors in the audience, how many times have you heard students of color say, for the first time, I wasn't seen as the Asian girl, as the Black guy. I was seen as an American first. Now, Douglass thought about not coming back because he was having a good time. Another bit of the story that I relate to, I see Julius nodding. A lot of us don't want to come back, but he decided he had a responsibility to return to the US and fight for his people and try to abolish slavery. And on his last night, before he came home, he wrote a letter to William Garrison, a fellow abolitionist, and included the lines that you see here. Now, some application tips and then your questions. Here's who's eligible. Students from ethnic backgrounds that are typically underrepresented on study abroad programs. You can see them listed there. First, second, and third years. The reason why is we want you to be able to go back to your school for at least another year and promote the heck out of studying abroad and be an ambassador for that experience. A GPA above 3.0, and it is no longer required to have a Pell Grant or attended MSI. So that's a change from last time round. The application itself involves a transcript, a letter of recommendation, never too early to ask for that, and your video. Don't stress about the video or its production value. You don't need to be Spike Lee for this. Recording a well-written speech with the camera on your phone will do just fine, and many a fellow has been selected based on that. Common question is, what are you looking for from applicants? And we're looking for future Frederick Douglasses, like you just heard speak. Frederick Douglass really valued an education since he was denied it. So we're looking for high academic achievers. Frederick Douglass was a gifted orator, so we're looking for those with good public speaking skills. And Frederick Douglass was an activist, so we're looking for students who value service and who have shown some leadership potential. And remember, even if you are not selected, you still receive a partial scholarship if you complete that application. It's a $1,500 scholarship that can be used towards any CIEE summer program. There's many options to choose from. Some of them are listed there. You can study sustainability and the environment in Costa Rica, for example. You can do an internship in Tokyo or study Ghanaian studies in Accra. So that $1,500 covers just a portion of the program fee. So where can you get the rest of that money is the next question. Some students have applied for other scholarships like the Gilman, G-I-L-M-A-N. This is a scholarship from the Department of State. I would look it up, it's on our website. Or they did a fundraising campaign using tools like GoFundMe, for example. Or they asked their church or their fraternity or sorority or their school. So there is funding out there. Talk to your study abroad office, make your plan B, because I hope some of you get chosen as a fellow and go to Dublin, but if not, a month in Barcelona or Tokyo ain't too shabby. So that's the end of the presentation. We are now here for questions. I'm thinking the best way to do that is probably the chat. So I'm gonna try to access to chat now and see if anyone has any questions. Let's see. Apologies if I'm missing ones that came earlier. I will look back, but Ramona is asking, how did the panelists help to promote study abroad on their return? Did you work directly with your study abroad office or do it independently? Anyone want to take that one?
I can take that one. So originally when I first got back, well, while I was abroad, I did a vlog series. Like I said, I'm a mass media arts major. And so my university was already curious about this opportunity. I was the first student at Clark Atlanta University to have this opportunity. So they were curious that I had this study abroad opportunity for free in another country for a month, and I'm gonna get credit. So my university was quite intrigued. So I did the vlog all 30 days, as well as giving application tips and things like that. And so when I got back, I had students already asking me questions. Okay, how do I apply? What can I do? And it was kind of independently. And then in an orientation, I was an orientation guide. My school gave me the opportunity to speak about it there. And that's when it kind of took off. And then our study abroad office was allowed me to host a workshop in their space. I was already gonna have one in the student center just for anyone to come, but they allowed me to move it to their space and they just continue to support me. So I would say I started off independent, but I worked my way to gaining a partnership with my university. And now that we're virtual again, they're still sending out emails, but anyone that has questions, I do make myself available for those.
Thank you, Haley. Wow, I had no idea you were doing all that. That's really wonderful to hear. Someone asked about the course, so I wondered if maybe Georgina, could you speak to a little bit about the course itself? Because it will be the same for those who are going to Ireland as well.
Yeah, of course. So the coursework, I think a lot of the times when we think of going abroad and academics, we think it's going to be hard. I want to be able to enjoy the experience. I want to be able to travel. I would say the coursework is very, one, engaging, and two, I wouldn't entirely say it's easy, but it's not hard, right? I think the program is very focused on your experience and your development. And so during our time with Dr. or Papa Q, as we all know him, he really had a focus on, as I shared, allowing us to kind of find ourselves and immerse ourselves with that experience. We had, I guess one of the assignments was to create a video, which was our final assignment, where, once again, we kind of spoke on the end of our journey and like how we felt like our experience was, and how we had connected with the program. I'm not sure if that entirely is what we're looking for.
No, that was really helpful. And to Kyle, hi Kyle, I can't see you.
Hey there.
Joining. The fellows take a course, our intercultural communication and leadership course, which is sort of our signature CIEE course. And I'd be happy to send you the syllabus for it as well. But it includes lots of additions to the program, as it includes a lot more than just the course, of course, where additional excursions are included as well. But I'd be happy to send you or anybody else a syllabus if they'd like to see what the readings are and the assignments, etc. Let's see. I like this one. How much freedom do the students have abroad? One of the fellows mentioned traveling to other countries as they do that independently. Do you want to speak to that, Kayla?
Sure. Yeah. So the students, they have a lot of independence as far as planning, their days. Of course, we had school every day, but they did make a point to give us, I remember we had a 3-day weekend and then a 4-day weekend. So they really tried to carve out time for every student to be able to find time to travel in their host country and then travel to other countries. That was definitely encouraged. So yeah, I would definitely say we were encouraged to travel abroad, but we were of course given, safety tips and tips about the culture.
I wondered if maybe Haley, if you could kind of give us a day in the life, because I think that's often the question is, how much time will I have to do extra things given my daily responsibilities?
Yeah, of course. So I would say a day in the life, start off with breakfast. Tea for us, we drink a lot of tea. And then we would go to class. And after class, you could do anything. It depends on the day. So I remember one day we would leave class, and if we had an additional assignment, my cohort was really good about getting it done right after class, so we didn't have to worry about it. And so then we would roam London. Like if it was a weekday, most of the time we just went around London, traveled to Brixton, just anywhere in the city. But if it was a Friday, most of us were catching a train or a flight to somewhere else. While in London, I was able to go to Germany, Paris, Ireland. We went on an excursion to Ireland, as well as Amsterdam. I went to Amsterdam for a weekend. So I was only there 4 weeks, and I went to almost 4 other countries. So make the most out of it. That was the best advice that my mentor, Megan, gave me, Megan and Carmen. Do anything that you have always dreamed of. I always wanted to go to Paris. Ever since I was a little girl, I had a Paris Sweet 16 theme, and I was in London and I flew to Paris, and it was like, wow, this is real. So if you have a dream of doing it, do it.
I like this question from Keelan West. Hope I'm saying that correctly. I'd love to know specific experiences of how going abroad further inspired those with social justice oriented aspirations. Oh, there you are waving. Hi. Thank you for your question.
I can go.
Please.
So I think if I understood correctly, I was trying to find the question within the chat, but it was how it further inspired social justice orientation, correct?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think for me, going abroad, as we all have shared, there is a large inequity, especially for students from underrepresented backgrounds while we're abroad, right? We don't necessarily have that opportunity, whether it's financial reasons, whatever it may be. So I recently graduated from my graduate program at USC, and I think for me, the program and studying abroad, it was very important, and I was very intentional when picking a program to further my academic career that was social justice driven and that focused on educational equity. Because I knew that a lot of the experiences and a lot of the things that I have gone through, I wanted to kind of be that helping hand for other students. And so one of the impacting factors with me was definitely the Frederick Douglass Global Fellowship program. I think in its entirety, just honestly having the opportunity to even apply and go abroad would not have been possible if it wasn't for a program like this. And so just kind of keeping that in the back of my, mind as I'm moving forward and knowing what is it that I want to pursue and why is it that I want to pursue, and always kind of remembering what was impacting for me and what helped me so that I can pay it forward to further students.
Anybody else want to respond to that? Oops, sorry, siren.
I'd like to add. So one of the things that I found, I guess, interesting about the program, as I said before, was that not many individuals from HBCUs, and particularly Black people, didn't study abroad. And so for me, it kind of inspires me to tell as many people as possible about these programs to get people to go abroad. And it astounds me, when it comes to people in my hometown, they don't want to leave. They're pretty, happy with where they're at. But I guess for me, it's a mission to help expand their boundaries and let them know that there's more than just the city that they've always known. And then I guess when it comes to being at my host destination, what I found very interesting was that my homestay mom, she was also a professor, and she had a particular knack for what's the word? There's a particular word for it, but she studies cultures, and within Merida is a decent amount of people of Maya descent. And one of the things that she's been studying is how the introduction of Western food and I guess fast food and packaged wrappings and stuff is affecting their communities. And one of the things that she pointed out to me was that their concept of litter and waste is very different because they ate off the land, and so it would go back to the land. But as these I guess gas stations and, just more convenient food is introduced, this idea of trash is, they're trying to understand not just leaving it out on the ground because that has environmental effects. And so learning different things about different countries and I guess little inequalities it's interesting, and it helped expand my mind beyond what's just going on in America.
Thank you so much. I also wanted to share, we did a survey recently with the fellows and the summer scholars to see what they were up to. And I was really struck just by how much work the fellows and the summer scholars did on our behalf as far as spreading the good word about studying abroad, and as well as all the wonderful things that they are up to now and the ways that they are contributing to their communities. So just wanted to share that as well. Getting a few questions about the impact of COVID, which of course, how could we not address that? I'm sorry I didn't do that in the presentation. We are hopeful that this summer the world will be a bit of a different place than it is now. But obviously we're keeping a close eye on things. I think it may be helpful for folks to know that we sent students abroad this past fall. We are sending students abroad in the spring, and those participants will have to take the same precautions that we're taking right here. And we feel very confident doing that. As many countries are, quite frankly, a lot safer than the United States is right now. So certainly by the time summer comes around, we are fully expecting to be able to run this program. If we can't, yes, we will have a plan B. The plan B will probably be a different destination if necessary. So we'll make sure that Dublin is safe and passes all of our, sorry, I'm losing my voice, passes all of our security guidelines. But something that is first and foremost in our mind, of course, is the safety of participants. Video, I see a few questions about that. So I wonder if one of the panelists can talk about how they approached the video.
I'll go ahead again then. Haley, I think you might, do you want to take that one? I saw you.
I was going to, but I would say my case is very different because I'm a mass media arts major. So I was able to grab seniors, and because I was a freshman at the time, seniors to help me. So I know a lot of my core members, they were looking at my video, they was like, you did a lot. I was like, I didn't know what they were expecting, but so you can go ahead and grab that one.
Okay, so I think I was not an arts major, I was a sociology major. As far as I knew, anything in regards to editing was probably like throwing it on an iMovie and then trying to merge everything together, or throwing it on an Instagram story and putting it all together. I think for me, if I recall correctly, my video, I was sitting in my dorm room talking about the impact that I felt the program was going to make for me. And some of the challenges, once again, some of the challenges I felt like I was probably going to face and how I was going to overcome that. I think when doing the video, we oftentimes become intimidated in doing these amazing graphics and editing and all this cool stuff that we may see. But I think one thing that you do want to remember is to be authentic, right? Be authentic with what you're saying, and what you want to essentially get out of the program is very important. You're only going to get what you give. And so always remember that you may not know how to maybe do all these graphics, do all these editing, do all this stuff that, we might see on TV. But I think it comes down to more of the story that you're telling, and why is it that you feel like that experience is going to be cherishable and memorable for you.
Thank you, Georgina. Sydney asked, what are some of the biggest challenges from studying abroad and rewarding experiences? Could we start with, oh yeah, we'll start with Julius.
I apologize. I guess this is very dear to me, but one of the most interesting challenges was like just the language barrier. And so when I first left the United States and I flew into Mexico City, I thought, that it being the capital, that there'd be more people that spoke English. And I was wrong. And so I was very confused, right, like at the start. And I was trying my best to, use the translation app on my phone and the very little Spanish that, from high school and middle school. And it was just very daunting. And I think that first experience kind of scared me moving forward. And so I was very dependent upon my my cohort, because a few of them were actually pretty good at Spanish, and then also the staff, because they were bilingual. They are bilingual, and so I think that that was the scariest part for me. But in learning that, I had to step out of that, and so later on, forgive me, but later on through the program, I had a few moments where I was by myself again, and I couldn't just depend upon my cohort or the staff, and so I had to really take that initiative. And one of the classes I took was communicative Spanish, and I think that like you're given the tools to succeed. It's just that you have to take the risk and use it. And for me, I get a little, what's the word, shy and anxious. I think that if I try and like I speak Spanish wrong, I'm like, oh, they're gonna laugh at me. They're gonna, they're like, oh, what is he trying to say? And that's a very, daunting thing. And I'd like to reassure you that, everyone feels that way if you're approaching a new language, and it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to take that step and actually try. And it's actually pretty, rewarding.
You're here. Kayla, did you want to speak to that question?
Yeah, my experience is super similar to Julius's. When I went to Paris, I didn't know any French. I just know, like hi and bye. So that was definitely interesting, and it was like super intimidating at first, just trying to communicate with people and figure it out. But yeah, it's definitely yeah, I know, like I noticed in French culture, they do appreciate when you do like speak some French, and like they'll correct you. I was actually like, and they'll tell you like, you need to speak French. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But it was definitely an interesting experience, and it definitely helped me with my communication skills and like learning new ways to express myself. And it definitely challenged me to learn some French to be able to communicate. So that's definitely something that I did take away from that experience. And another thing I did notice that was kind of challenging, it might sound kind of silly, but I did notice that like they stare at you a lot. And that was something I never experienced before, like being on the train and somebody like just gazing into your soul for like 2 minutes straight. So that was definitely an adjustment. So yeah.
I remember talking to you about that, because Parisians, they look at you. They will make no bones about it.
Like, we live here. Why are y'all staring at me so hard? But yeah.
How many fellows will be chosen? Mariella asks, and there are 10 students who are selected as fellows to answer that question. Does anybody else, want to respond to the challenges and rewarding experiences before we move on? I don't know if Haley or Georgina wanted to respond to that. Okay. I'm trying to see if I'm forgetting anything. Tokyo internship. What is that experience like? I would encourage you to go to the website to see some details, but essentially you let us know what kind of position you're interested in and what skills that you want to acquire. And then CIEE tries to find the right match for you as far as an employer. And then you're placed in that position. A lot of different kinds of industries and fields are available. So I would encourage you to check out the website to get some more details about that particular opportunity. Sorry, Arlindia, I'm trying to read your question here. Oh yes, you're a summer scholar from last year, awesome. When can you start planning to study abroad next year? Start planning right now, I would say. Never too early to start planning. So please have a look at the options that are available for this summer. They're on our website under summer 2021 programs. We've been corresponding, so I can send you the link, Arlindia. Is there a chance to become a Frederick Douglass Scholar? I'm guessing you mean, is there a chance to be chosen as a fellow? Yes, if you still meet the eligibility requirements and wanted to reapply in the hopes of being selected as a fellow, absolutely, would encourage you to do that. And is it true the Gilman Scholarship is for students who have a military background? I don't believe that is the case. So I'm glad you asked that question. I don't represent the Gilman, just to be clear, that's the Department of State scholarship. But I would definitely check out the requirements for it. When would you notify? Oh, yeah. Did somebody say something?
That was me, Miss Boyd. I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Nice to see you. We've been emailing. Had any of you studied abroad before you took part in this opportunity?
So yes, when I was a sophomore in high school, my high school goes on a rotating school trip every year. They select about 15 to 20 students and take you out the country. I went to Germany, Czech Republic, and Switzerland for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, it was a life-changing experience as well. Wasn't the same. I would say I was racially profiled in Switzerland. So it diminished my view of the world a little, I would say, because it was just so crazy. I was like, what is going on? And I was the youngest in my group, and I was one of 3 Black people. So it was just very nerve-wracking. It was very scary, I would say. And from there, I kind of was like, got it. So I'm just bound to this race thing. Like, this is just something that I'm not gonna be able to overcome. And then when I went to London, it was like something that like nobody talked about. Like, it was just like, and it wasn't as important. So I would say when I studied abroad again, I was able to reopen my eyes to the world. And then when I went to Ireland, especially, I just absolutely was astonished by the fact that they were facing some of the problems that they were facing, and nobody in the US was talking about it. So that's actually what caused me to stay in my major, because freshman year I was about to change my major to political science, but I was so focused on the fact that nobody is reporting this. Nobody are reporting these injustices. Nobody's talking about it. There's literally a border that if you walk on one side of Ireland, you're with a certain group of people, but if you walk on the other side, you're with an entirely different group of people. And it was just so surreal to me. It almost felt like a war zone. And I had never heard about it. It had never been talked about. I take a lot of history classes and nobody had ever like said anything about it. It was very frustrating. So I would say that it's definitely something that motivated me to come back home and do more research, continue to stay in my major. I recently crossed up to Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and our organization is gung-ho, very focused on the political action aspect of the world. And so now I'm on the International Awareness Committee, and we are going to hopefully, COVID gets out the way, go to Ireland and work with some of the injustices that are happening there. So I would just say it's not a requirement to study abroad before, because like I said, I would not feel in the rest of the world for a while based off of my negative experience.
Thank you, Haley. So we just have a few minutes left. I wanted to pose one final question to the panel, if I could, which is, what did you learn about yourself as a result of this experience?
I'll start off.
Thank you.
So I think the biggest thing I learned about myself is that I'm capable. When I went abroad as a sophomore. So 17, I want to say 17, 18-year-old. Going to another country was scary. From managing the airport to just, being able to get prepared prior. It's a lot of things that I guess in your mind you put barriers to, and you realize that oftentimes you're that barrier. And so just being able to like navigate those experiences from the application process to even being within the program, just telling yourself like you're capable, like you haven't done this, but if you don't do this, you're never going to do it. And so just kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone and taking that initial step to move forward.
If I may, I guess one of the things that I really discovered about myself was just how curious I am. And so I guess going back towards why I chose Mexico, it was, there's another reason. I went during the summer of 2019. And so there was a lot of, Mexico border, US, just tension. And one of my biggest curiosities was, seeing things firsthand for myself. And I understand that, Merida is on the opposite end of the U.S. And Mexico border. But at the same time, I really wanted to just, be there and, see how the world actually is other than what's shown on the media. And it was very eye-opening. And the more people I talked to, the more I discovered that, people were really happy with where they were. And they would always tell me that, like, you're from America. I'm like, yeah. So, make sure you tell people that, people, we're happy here. It's a great place to live. There's not everyone is trying to cross the border. And, they wanted to, I guess, defeat that stereotype that's pretty prevalent within the States. And so, it just made me more curious, and I want to travel more just to see what other countries are like outside of what we're shown.
What I learned about myself, it was really scary because everybody was like having these life-changing moments. Like someone in my cohort, he's named after his dad, and he used to always go by John, and he felt like he was living in his dad's shadow. And we were like, well, if you want to be called Anthony, you have to demand it. So everybody was having these life-breaking things, and I felt like I wasn't growing, and it was really like bothering me. Like, why does everybody get to grow and I'm sitting here being stagnant? And then I realized that my growth was completely internal. I realized that sometimes you don't have to, grow 3,000 miles. Sometimes it's just an inch, and that's okay. So I became more secure in my own track as a person. And I think that was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because even now, being a junior in college and not really knowing what's next, old Haley, that would have freaked me out. It would have been, why haven't I started applying to law school? Why haven't I not started studying for the LSAT? Now I'm like, well, COVID happened. Give yourself a break, girl. It's going to be okay. So I would say it gave me a lot of patience. Like I said, we got to know each other very, very well. And we all came from different walks of life. And just with that, I was just able to be a better me. I have done a lot of media work for people. And when I was in London, that was the first time I had ever done a piece that was about me. It was solely about me, my growth as a person, my growth as a woman, as an African American, as a student. It was just captivating. And it wasn't until the very last day that I realized I have grown. I've grown a lot, So I would say wherever your growth is, whatever you grow in, don't rush the process. That was something that I really wanted to do. I'm like, I don't see it. And it was freaking me out. So I would say, don't rush the process. You're going to grow no matter what, because you're going to be pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You've never been to some of these places. So that's how I grew.
I was like, one thing that I really take away from my experience studying abroad was increased confidence. I never traveled abroad before, and that was the second time I was on a plane. Only flew once before that. So it was completely experienced. Like, one of the moments where I felt like most alone in my entire life was landing in the airport in Paris, like not speaking French, not knowing anyone, trying to find my group. Like, it was terrifying and it was scary, but I was definitely able to grow in confidence. And now I feel like empowered to do anything. Now I feel empowered to be able to travel by myself, to continue to broaden my horizons. And I definitely credit that to, taking the leap and feeling uncomfortable and feeling afraid for a moment, because now I have a lifetime of courage.
Wow, this seems like a perfect way to end. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Julius. Thank you, Georgina, for joining me today. It was really just wonderful to hear your reflections. And thanks to all of you for looking into this opportunity. If you are interested, what you should do is just start that application. You just have to put in your name and your email, and then we'll send you reminders to help you to complete it, and some updates and information that'll be useful to you. If you have questions, go to our website, email me at sbenjamin@ciee.org or fdgf@ciee.org. And I hope you decide to apply, and thank you again for coming. Bye, everybody.